Streets and Scholars. I'm Alex Alonso. I'm here with FG, aka Frank Thornton, and we're ready to bring you guys another banger. What's going on, Frank?
What's going on with you, man? How your day going?
Oh man, I'm doing good, man. Just it really was a slow week, man. I feel it was a slow news week. What do you think?
You know what? I kind of felt the same thing, man. I was looking around and people were sending me a few things, but which is not a bad thing, especially if it's no news is better than bad news.
Yeah, man. I want to talk about that shooting that we had here in Los Angeles at the Peck Park down in San Pedro, but I want to do a couple of fact checks from episode 19. We kind of went right into our episodes last couple of weeks. I didn't get to do much fact check, but this is a very important one. In episode 19, we talked about Cowboy and Eric Holder, and I actually said that Cowboy testified that Eric Holder was the shooter. Now, when I went back and looked at my notes and I went back and looked at everything, he actually never ID'd him as the shooter. He just said that he ran out of the marathon store, Nip was on the ground, and he saw Eric running away, which is a little different from saying, I saw him bussing.
Yeah,
so I want to make that clear.
Okay.
He didn't testify that he saw Eric Holder shooting. He actually said that everyone was running, and when he saw Eric Holder running, he wasn't sure if he was the shooter or not.
Right.
I want to correct. That's a major mistake. I put Cowboy saying that he had the gun and he busting all that, and
I didn't catch that then.
He didn't say it that way, but nevertheless, he did testify and he told on some things that, considering that he's an OG rolling 60, he probably shouldn't have been speaking on it, but. Also, you wanted me to double check, make sure Rimpal ran back.
Oh, yeah.
That was episode 19, and he absolutely did run back.
Okay.
If you go to AGTV, he posted the LAPD body cam footage of the whole scene after Nipsey got shot, and you see Rimpal, he's there on his knees, he's standing up. So he came back.
Okay. Yeah, that was only my concern.
I wasn't 100% sure if he came back. I kind of knew he came back, but Sharmai and Rimpal, both of them came back, even though they ran. So
I mean, shit, like I say, man, you get to hear that 40 bus, and you ain't gonna just stand there though. To be honest with you.
Yeah, man, I put no blame on those two brothers, because at the end of the day, it's about preservation of life. No matter how gangster you are, you got to preserve your life.
No doubt, but I mean, in an environment like that, it just seemed like, it'd have been a pistol packer in the vicinity, for the NIP team, and that's another story, but I'm just saying,
Well, I think that at that particular intersection, they had to be very careful because the police were always over there. The police was always running up in some of these places.
Okay, always on their helmet, kind of tough.
So they had to really be, by the book over there.
Yeah.
And these are legitimate businesses.
Right.
So they were trying to do it the right way.
No doubt. And like you said, we commend Nip on, showing people how to put it back down in the community, because I didn't realize that he owned that whole lot right there. And I was proud of him when I heard that.
Yeah, he did own it, but it was in his brother's name, Black Sam's name.
Yeah, no, it don't matter. But whether it was in his auntie name, I mean, he had full control over it, and that's something that we should teach these guys out here that's getting all this money. Hey, put something under your belt, man.
Yeah, man. So a lot of people are surprised that there was no return gunfire. To a certain degree, you would expect somebody out there to return some gunfire, but then at the same time, these people are trying to establish legitimate businesses in a place where the LAPD is always raiding and running up in and trying to take somebody to jail. So
right, no, I get it.
Yeah. Another mistake that I made on episode 19, we were talking about DeAndre Bonds, who had a similar case like Eric Holder back in 2001, actually. And I said he had just got cast in a movie called Guy Fisher, and there is no such movie called Guy Fisher. It was called Antoine Fisher.
Antoine Fisher, yeah.
But I said Guy Fisher, and Guy Fisher is the New York heroin dealer.
See, I knew the movie was Antoine Fisher, but I thought you knew something I didn't know. You know what I mean? So I left it alone.
Hey, I guess I got drug dealers and gangsters in my head,
man.
So I was listening to it back. And I said, why the hell did I say Guy Fisher?
Yeah.
So, he had just got cast in that movie, Antoine Fisher. That was a Denzel Washington movie,
right? Which
he never got to play in because he caught that, they charged him with murder.
Man.
And he ended up getting the manslaughter. But Guy Fisher, it was a heroin trafficker. Since I said Guy Fisher, I might as well tell everybody who he was. He was a heroin trafficker from 1972 to 1983 in New York City. And he learned the game from a guy named Nicky Barnes, who eventually Nicky Barnes ratted on him.
Man.
Because Nicky Barnes received a life sentence in 1978. And I guess because he wanted to get out, everyone knew that Guy Fisher was now the man. He helped put a case on Guy Fisher, and Guy Fisher ended up getting sentenced to life without parole. But he was given a medical pardon in 2020, so he's a free man, but he's in his 70s now.
Yeah.
Have you heard of these New York drug dealers before?
Oh no, man! Nicky Barnes and Frank Lucas and all them dudes, they was getting money, man.
They was, man.
You know, I mean, I hated some of the end outcome from them, but they was the godfathers of getting that bread, man. You know.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, man, those are a couple of fact checks from episode 19. Go back and tap into some of the Streets and Scholars episodes if you're new to this podcast. We're on all platforms, and if you're listening to us on iTunes, go ahead and leave us a rating and review, and we'll tap back in with you on any questions that you might have for FG and myself. And a couple of updates, man. We've been talking about this boxer case. I looked him up. He's still sitting in jail, even though he was granted release. He was granted release, but he's still sitting in jail. So someone told me it takes a while to get processed from, you're free to getting out of jail.
I've seen it both ways. I've seen them call dudes that been down 10, 15 years and tell them, hey, man, you got to be out of here before 4 o'clock count. You know what I mean?
Same day?
Same day.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I've seen that on 2 instances. And one time me and the homie was playing chess, and they called him down to the case manager's office. And he came back, and he was like, homie, I got a problem. I'm like, what's happening? He say, first problem is I got to be out of here by 4 o'clock. Second problem is I don't know where I'm going, just based on, oh shit, I still had a couple years. I some years left, you know what I mean? So that's how it goes sometimes. But his boxer situation is a little different. I believe it's probably all kind of paperwork that might need to signed and notarized and that type of shit, for boxer,
Plus, I guess he might be going into this like protective thing.
Right. So they probably need time to set up everything to make sure that they, keep this dude alive.
Now, when you got your release date, you knew that date was coming. How far in advance did you know I'm getting out on this date?
No, it don't be that far in advance. You probably around the 6-7 month period. They give you a date, walk you in there, and give you a date. But at the end of the day, my first time going to prison, Alex, I just didn't believe that they were ever going to let me out. And I only had a couple years. I just didn't believe these people were going. It just felt like I was never going to go home. You know what I mean? And until I started seeing people go home, you know what I mean? I'm like, okay, they are letting people out, But about 7-8 months.
Does it look like a place where there's no return? Like once you're in these walls, it just seems like this is this feels permanent.
Well, it all depends on what role you taking. You know what I mean? Like me, I don't have a mother, father, sister, or brother to call and, we miss yous and, you know what I mean, and all that sort of thing. So I was living the life of the life. So while I was on the yard, my state bid, I'm rocking with the homies hands down. Inside or outside, it's just, you living that life. So, that's what it is.
So you lost both your parents by 19?
By 19, yeah.
Okay.
And maybe about my mom died when I was 19. She passed away in June. By December, I was on my way to prison, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, it's a different perspective when you ain't got your parents to, like, fall back on.
No doubt. But like I say, that's why I say, I was in there just doing what I do. Going with the flow, hanging with the homies, banging it out. You didn't have no kids. You didn't have no family. You didn't have nobody basically writing you letters saying they miss you, and that sort of thing. It just didn't feel like, these people was going to let me out. But eventually my day came and I got on up out of there.
Man, I remember I don't know if it was the first time, but it was the first time I got arrested for something serious. I had to call my dad. It was like, that's the only person. The only person. And they hit me with a attempted murder when I was 18 or 19 years old. And I told my pops, I called him up, and I knew he was going to be disappointed in me. Mm-hmm. But I was like, Pops, it's not what they say it is.
Right.
I ain't trying to kill anybody.
Right.
But, you get into a fight and people get knocked out,
Hell
they
yeah.
get unconscious.
No doubt.
They go to the hospital, and then before you know it, you're looking at the paperwork. This is attempted murder. I said, I had nothing to do with this. And they let me out eventually, but I couldn't imagine going through that without my dad. My dad was at that police station. Hey, where's my son at?
Where my son at?
Why you hit him with this?
Yeah.
And eventually I got out because it was all exaggerated. But man, I couldn't imagine going through anything like that without a parent, because, you know, a parent brings you the wisdom because they've already lived twice your age already.
No doubt. And I never forget my first time even being going to jail, you know, because like I said, I made it all through my juvenile with no playing sports, doing my shit, but never getting caught. So when I get caught, my first time going to jail, I'm in Hoover Hood at my cousin's house, 5 Deuce Hoover Hood. And when we go to jail, and we go to 77th Street Station. So, you know, immediately as soon as I get in there, you know, I cut my folks loose. Tell them straight up, hey, anything y'all got that's on me, let them go, ain't no bam. So I'm in there and shit, man. And, you know, I'm really worried about my first time in here as an adult, just turned 18, you know. So I'm in 77th Street Station, and I called my mom, you know what I mean? Because she always said, you ever go to jail, do not call me. I ain't coming to get your ass, you know what I mean? So I called my mom. She like, everything good? I'm like, yeah, everything good. You know, I said, it's cold in here, though, but everything good, you know what I mean? I bullshit you not, Alex. About an hour or two later, the deputy called me the officer called me to the gate. Was like, hey, man, here your mother brought you this and shit. She brought me a sweatshirt. Right? They clowned the shit out of me up in that cell and shit. Man, your mommy brought you a sweatshirt? You know what I mean? But shit, her baby was cold. You know what I mean?
She came through.
Yeah, that shit was funny as a bug.
That's pretty pleasant.
Man.
I called my first case in L.A. when I was 13, and I had only been living with my dad in L.A. for 2 years. Mm-hmm. I think I came when I was 11. And I caught a little stupid case stealing bikes. Mm-hmm. They hit me with a receiving stolen property. Mm-hmm. And they let me out, and my pops beat me with a broomstick. Man. He said, I didn't bring you to Los Angeles to start catching cases.
Right.
And I was like, it was just a bicycle.
Yeah,
know, I didn't steal the bike. I grabbed the bike that someone else stole. Before you know it, I'm in jail.
Right.
For receiving stolen property. And they tried to do the juvenile hall thing, but I ended up not having to go to juvenile hall. I did 6 months probation. Mm-hmm. Used to have to go to this probation department on Exposition and Crenshaw every week and sit there and talk for an hour about nothing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's funny. I went from getting an ass whooping from my dad with a broomstick when I was 13 to 5 years later, he's coming to save me and, you know, get me out of jail, man.
Well, you know, the funny thing real quick is that day we went to jail, my grandmother stayed 5 houses down from my cousin. So we going to jail, my grandmother came out there. So she had called my mom immediately. I told the officer, she like, your mom on her way. I told the officer, hey, man, can you go and get us up out of here before she get here? Because I wasn't scared to go to jail, but I was scared of my mother, man. She didn't play that shit.
Oh, yeah.
She did not play, Alex. You know what I mean?
What age you weren't scared of going to jail?
I was never scared to go to jail. I just wasn't going, you know. I was raised under the thumb of, you know, your parents do for you, man. Like I said, I didn't grow up in poverty. I just grew up in the hood, you know. So they provide for you, and they aspect is, look, man, we'll give you everything you want. Just do what the hell you need to do. You know, go to school, get good grades, be a decent human being, and that be hard when you in the hood, you know.
Yeah, I was a little nervous the first time I bought the L.A. County jail as an 18-year-old, but I held my own, and you know, I was a pretty strong youngster. But yeah, I ain't gonna lie about it, man. You get in that LA County.
Oh well,
jail,
no, that's the difference. You didn't ask me that. Yeah, you didn't ask me that. You just said scared to go. No shit, that LA County, because we always heard the stories about 9500. You know, the 9000 floor. You know, all the Crips was on the 9000 floor. You know what I mean? And the homies always told me, if you hit it, you got to man up. You know what I mean? Ain't no tucking your tail, but you're going to get tested as soon as you hit it. You know, and no doubt, you know, you hit that 9500, man, county jails, 100 Crips everywhere, and every unit you hit.
Yeah.
But you know, back then, you know, you walked your walk, you repped your shit. You know, you took your ass whooping if you need to, but you know, you did it with your chest out. You know.
Yeah, man. It's you know, I was just looking up some information about the LA County jail. There's 22,000 inmates, and it is the largest jail facility in the world.
Damn. Well, you know what? One thing about it, man. One thing before I went to end up going to the state pen, you know, and I was trying to ask the homies, like, what was the pen like? What was the pen like? Of course, you got different levels and shit like that, but just a curious dude who had never been, period, you know, had a couple questions. And the one homie just said it like this, man. If you could walk to LA County jail, man, if you could survive in this motherfucker, you could survive anywhere.
Yep.
And I took that advice and went on with it.
And I think it's still like that today.
Man.
Because I'm hearing all kind of stories when as soon as you get to the county jail, man, you running like 3, 4, 5, 6 fades.
Man, it's rocking and rolling, man.
You know, when I was in there in the late 80s, it wasn't that crazy. You didn't have to run like 7, 8 fades like I'm hearing now with some of the youngsters, you know.
Shit, man, our little homies be calling me. They tell me, man, they done ran 3 today. You know what I mean? I'll be like, damn, your knuckles ain't hurting, but that's just what it is.
I think it's because there's less segregation because they would separate different groups of different cars back then. So you was really fighting your own most of the time.
No doubt.
But now I think everyone is just thrown in together in these dorms.
Well, you got to realize, though, even back then, though, everybody wasn't beefing with everybody. You know what I mean? You had these dudes beefing with these dudes, but nowadays, it's like everybody is enemies. You know what I mean? So what they doing is they going to come in here, we going to run our fade. Okay, now we can live together. You know what I mean? We done got that out the way. Us as black men, let's walk this walk because there's other obstacles in here too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there are more enemies. That's a good point because, you know, in the late 80s, I can't even think of a blood set that was fighting with a blood set on a regular basis. There might have been skirmishes. Right. But it wasn't no long-term conflict like we see today.
Tell you, Alex, back then, man, you know, and even like I said, I didn't hit the county jail. I was 18 in 91. And if you was a blood, you was a blood, you was a blood. Pyru, all that, we ran together faithfully, you know, wasn't no issues. You know what I mean? So that was the last person you thought you was going to have to run a fade with, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just a different time. Like you say, so many people have so many enemies that they in there fighting every day now.
That's crazy. So we have no idea. I was just thinking Boxer might actually be out, but when you look him up, it say he's not because maybe they're trying to trick us.
Well, you know, they done pulled some shit on us with Boxer already. You know, they done checked him in the county jails and stuff under false names and moved him around, you know, secretly, you know.
Yeah.
So technically they have the capability of doing that because he's such a high profile dude. So
yeah, bro is going to be getting out if he's not already out. All right, YNW Melly, guy that's charged with a double murder. So far, there's no update on his case. His trial should be going like any day now, and that's probably going to be the biggest trial in the state of Florida when it does go.
Yeah, no doubt. They probably getting all the dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's, you know, getting everything ready to go. But just like, you know, I was surprised how fast Eric Holder trial went, man. It just came and went like that, you know, so...
9 days.
Yeah, once they get going, it's going to get going. So, like you say, any day now.
Yeah, if you count the days of the Eric Holder trials, it was just 9 days, even though they took Fridays off every week. Mm-hmm. If they didn't take Fridays off every week, it would have finished sooner.
Right.
And then there was a lot of half days, too. And there was a couple days, there was a day off after July 4th. But, yeah, in total, it was just 9 days of testimony. There are, I believe, 20 witnesses. And the defense had, I think, 2 witnesses. So, yeah.
Well, the thing about the YNW Melly thing is, I mean, he's probably going to be super surprised at some of the shit that they done came up with that they know. They don't realize they know. You know, I'm sure he's going to get blindsided, and his attorney's really going to have to put some work in order to put him in the best position.
Yeah, man, that's a tough one, man. Double murder there. So, you know, I mean, it's possible, but, you know, that's a death penalty state, even though he is not looking at the death penalty. The death penalty is off the table for those who are wondering. That was the reason why the most recent delay was, I guess they wanted to try to give him the death penalty, but that ain't happening. So his trial should be starting anytime soon, but he's definitely looking at life in prison.
No doubt, but like I said, you know me, I still got my eye on YNW Bortland. I want to see how, you know, he what role he played in all this, as far as, you know, if he had significantly something to do with it, or, you know, did he get, you know, I got my eye on Bortland just to see how he respond.
Yeah, we don't really talk about him too much because Melly was like the leader of the whole clique.
True, but Bortland is out on bond. You know, this is double murder still. You know, I don't know no double murderers that have really got out on bond, me personally. Not saying nothing is wrong. Maybe they don't have a lot of stuff on him, but, you know, hey.
That is crazy. He was able to bond out, huh?
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I'm just watching what his role is. Maybe he didn't have nothing to do with it. Maybe he, you know, or maybe shit, he working with him. I'm just I'm not going to put nothing on him. I just want to see what his role is because he is out on a double murder and he was part of that plot or plan.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Allegedly for sure. I'm going to have to do some research on that because that's interesting. I keep forgetting that he's out on bail. on that. So we'll keep you updated on that, which is I believe it's happening in Miami, Florida. And hey, China Mac, he visits Atlanta. He gets to hang out in the hood. He does vlogs with all these guys there, and there was no issue. He was able to go, and the title of his video was, "They tried to ban me from Atlanta."
Right.
So he had no problem.
Oh, I didn't think he would, me personally. I didn't think he would, and I'm just glad he went down there and didn't keep people thinking. You know, he went and showed the motherfucker that, listen, man, there's some bullshit. I can come and go as I please down here with these dudes. They love me down here too.
I think I want to go down there in a week or so. So if you guys are from Atlanta and you tapping into the Streets and Scholars podcast, hit me up, because I was never banned from anywhere. So I would definitely like to tap in and get a couple videos knocked out down in the ATL.
All right, yeah, just be careful, man, because, you know, old boy, man, might want to run that fade with you, you know what I mean?
Hey, man, I don't underestimate anybody.
Right.
As weird and as crazy as some of the things he's done, I don't underestimate bro. So Suge Knight civil trial, we waiting on his second. He's going back on trial for that case that we initially reported that he lost, $81 million, but it turns out it was a hung jury. They were going to do it all over again in July, and it doesn't look like it's going to go until August. And that's a case that I'm definitely going to cover, man. I'm going to be right in there.
No doubt. So we can get to what's actually going on, what's actually being said. You know what I mean? Sometimes, you know, when you hear on the news, they leave out a lot of facts. You know, just give us a gist. It's cool when we can get some intel or some knowledge on, you know, especially somebody we know personally. You know what I mean? So I would like to see how that's going, just to see, you know, how that paying out and shit money wise, because it's like, you know, they're awarding a lot of money to these guys, but I'm wondering how much are people actually getting? You know what I mean? How much are actually hitting their bank account, you know?
Well, I think whatever the Terry Carter family gets, or is awarded, I should say, they probably not going to get it.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know.
But hey, it's good to, I understand that people do this because you never know when the guy that you're suing, in this case Suge Knight, comes across some unexpected money. They're going to be in line to get some, a piece of that. For sure. You know? So be on the lookout for that trial. I'm going to cover that trial like I covered the Eric Holder trial. I'm going to bring you all the witnesses. I'm going to tell you what they said in court. I'm going to bring the transcripts, all of that, because we need to find out what's going on in that Suge Knight case. All right, man. Interesting topic here. This sister named Justine Jones, she got hired in this small town called Kenly, North Carolina, and as soon as she got hired as city manager, less than a month, like 3 weeks later, all the police, including the chief, all resigned because of her. And they said because of a toxic work environment, and obviously they're hating on her, and the people that resigned are all white, and she's black. Right.
Well, the issue comes in with me is this, you know, sometimes in some of these small towns, Alex, they used to running the town a certain way. You know, don't forget Andy Griffith, man. You know, all those shows, you know, even though it was portrayed as a lighthearted, you know, sitcom, you know, you didn't see too many black people down there either, you know. So when somebody come down there with authority, whether it's a black city manager, a black police chief, a black certain thing, man, they really get upset still, you know, about some of these things. And for a whole force to quit, because she couldn't have all rubbed all of y'all the wrong way. You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
Yeah, they trying to make a statement. Basically, if you ask me, my opinion, they trying to make a statement that we don't want this sister up in here with no authority over us. We want to run our town the way we been running our town, the good old fashioned way. You know what I mean? So I think there's some undertones in that.
Definitely. This town is 36% black and 36% white, 20% Hispanic. So 36% black, that's a lot of black folks.
That is, especially when you talk about the evil amount. I didn't know it was like 50-50 when it comes to black and white.
Yeah, it's a small town though, but it's a whole lot of black folks in there. Hey, this is what they're saying here. She has created a toxic and hostile work environment. And I just find that hard to believe. How does one sister create an environment where, you know, and we have to say the police department is small, but why would the entire police department want to resign, including the chief, and then have a town without any police officers?
You know, because they want to run their shit like how they don't want certain people in their circle. And that's just how it is. You know, they want to sit here and say everybody's equal. You know, everybody got an opportunity to do this, but at the same time, you don't show that when it comes to business. Now, she could be a no-nonsense sister that sees flaws in the police department, and she's there to help clean this up. And they don't want nobody to oversee exactly what they're doing, because you have to understand, for one, she's a woman, they're a man. We'll take race out of this. We'll just go with man and woman. And it's a whole lot of men that don't want to be basically overruled, you know, by a woman.
What about a black woman?
Exactly. That's why I was saying I could eat 50. Even if it was the same race, they don't want that. So then when you put a black woman on top of them, Alex, shit, man, we out of here, man. We not finna go for this.
That's crazy. The police chief, Josh Gibson, that's his name. He's been on the department for 21 years. In his resignation letter directed towards Jones, he said he had been pleased with the progress his department has made in the last 3 years, but the hostile, quote-unquote, work environment that Jones produced made it impossible for progress to continue. Gibson, a 21-year police veteran, has not expanded on the alleged details, citing legal concerns, but added that he would consider returning to work if Jones was fired.
Right. That's the whole plot and plan, though, Alex. You know what I mean? They got together. They discussed this. Let's all step out. They're going to choose us over her. But the mayor himself is saying, you know, he want to get to the bottom and see, you know, what's the problem is. But he had to tread lightly, too, because you all can't just go on no super racist stuff, especially when the town is 36-36. Yeah. You damn sure can, as a mayor, can get outvoted. Next thing you know, you have a black mayor over there, so he got to play his cards right too.
Definitely. Let me play a small clip from this local news down there in North Carolina. Let me cue this up here.
Entire police department in one town, every officer and the chief resigned today. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Angela Taylor.
And I'm Rod Carter. This happened in the small town of Kenley, which is in Johnston County. CBS 17's Gilad Malamed is live there tonight with this story. Gilad.
Pretty soon, this town won't have a police department unless something changes. Police Chief Josh Gibson tells me he and the department's 4 full-time officers gave in their 2 weeks' notice today. Gibson says he quit because the environment the new town manager who started in June created. He says the other officers quit for the same reason. We asked Gibson to specify what that means, but he said he wouldn't say because attorneys are involved.
He ain't got no reason.
And the town utility clerk also resigned.
She black, that's why.
Like the job Gibson was doing as chief, and says they're shocked and concerned by what's happening.
He's done a good job for our town. I'm a retired teacher from the area. I remember seeing him in the schools and just a little bit of shock.
And I was like, what in the world, man? I mean, we can't have a lawless town. There's no way on God's green earth we can have a lawless town. So I hope we can find a resolution.
We wanted to know what happens with public safety here in 2 weeks. The spokesperson for the Johnston County Sheriff's Office says there's no specific plans for increased patrol in the area, but they will be here for anyone in Kenley who needs them. We asked the Wilson County Sheriff's Office as well and are waiting to hear back. We also reached out to the town of Kenley for comment about this and are waiting to hear back from them. Live in Kenley, Gilad Malamed.
Alrighty, so some people, that was an old guy that was talking about we can't have a lawless society. They're gonna get us, but it's 2,000 people. Y'all should be able to know how to police your own community.
You only got 4 cops. Knock it off. You got
Yeah.
you in a you in a lawless town, man. 4 cops.
Hey, this is what I would do if I was homegirl. I'd be like, all right, I accept your resignation, and I'm about to hire some new people.
Well, is it up to her or is it up to the mayor, though?
Oh, that I don't know. I don't know.
See, I think the mayor is a little higher than her.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she does have rank.
But this article says the resignation letter was directed towards her, Jones. So I don't know how much power she has in terms of hiring and firing, but I would do everything I could do to just let these guys go and bring in some replacements to show that we don't need them anymore.
Well, let's say it like this. You know, he been there 21 years. He a good old boy. You know what I mean? To the town and to the city and to the town next to him. You're a good old boy, man. You know what I mean? So sometimes you do need to bring fresh blood in, fresh people in, you know, times are changing, man. And you guys want to keep these same tactics, you know, these old school, you know, tactics and shit got to change sometime.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, this guy 21 years. Maybe he needs to retire early. Maybe he needs to just enjoy the rest of his life and let some new young folks take over, man. Because I was doing a little research on her, and I'm actually impressed with her. She's got a nice resume. She's worked in politics for the last 15 years, and she's a good-looking sister at that.
Well, you know what? She knows exactly what's going on down there. You know, she know her approach is going to ruffle some feathers. She might even display that to the city, the other council members, you know, and they probably watching it play out firsthand, you know, as she said, because you notice she hasn't spoke out on anything.
Nah, she's been quiet.
And then the mayor, he said a little piece. He just said he just want to get to the bottom of what's actually going on. He didn't say too much, you know what I mean? You know.
Yeah. Well, I wish Justine Jones all the luck over there in that small hick town of Kenly, North Carolina. And I hope you're victorious and prosperous there, and get to continue your career, man. All right, so let's see here. You know, I wanted to talk about this last week, and we ran out of time. But I was very shocked to hear the DA from Fulton County, Atlanta, the city of Atlanta, which is Fulton County, Georgia. Mm-hmm. Her name is Tani Willis, another sister. When asked about the RICO case that she has against Young Thug and Gunna, and then she also has another one against YF and Lucci, in the middle of the interview, she said, "Yeah, I got 2 more coming in the next 60 days."
Right.
Ain't that some crazy shit?
Hey, man, but she kept it 100. She let them know that I'm coming.
I don't even think you're supposed to say that. But
I don't either. That's why I was saying, damn, was that even, was that legal? Was that, ethical?
And what's crazy, if you try to find the clip of her saying it, it is difficult to find.
Oh, no shit?
Yeah, you have
to. I remember it was there at first.
It is there. But the best clip that I found was a recording of her on the TV screen. Mm-hmm. I can't find the actual original interview. So let me play this little clip of her. This is a real short clip. Let me see if I can get this here.
Gang investigations. Recent months, you've had 2 high-profile gang racketeering cases. There are going to be more.
Over the next 60 days, you'll see 2 more.
Boom. Very short. She was being interviewed by Channel 2 down there in Atlanta, which is WSB-TV. This is a real clip. Mm-hmm. The sister, she's wearing a green dress, and she's looking fly. And she ain't playing around, man. Ain't she? She a fly looking sister there?
Oh yeah, nice looking one.
Yeah, the DA of Atlanta, Fulton County.
Yeah.
So she ain't playing though.
No, but at the same time, she's putting it on the line that she's coming for certain shit. And let's be clear though, she didn't tell no top secret information. She didn't tell that we're going to start investigating some people in 60 days. They already got that shit wrapped up.
Yeah, it's done.
It's done. So you know what I mean, and what she doing is making people sweat to see if they're a part of it.
It's crazy because if you're from the streets in Atlanta and you doing whatever you're doing, you must be stressing out right now.
I mean, you stressed the fuck out, homie. You know what I mean? I mean, honestly though, you like for real. You know what I mean? Because people, the streets are tied in with each other. You know what I mean? And then they got all these conspiracies and RICOs. Sometimes you could just be on a phone call with a cat. Now you in their case. You know what I mean? So I know it's some dudes stressed out right now.
Yeah, man. So I'm actually looking forward to find out if any of these people in these indictments, is it just related to a lot of social media, YouTube videos like Young Thug's case. When you read through his case, there's supposedly 190 crimes. 2 of those crimes are murder. I get it. Okay. But the other 100 and something is just photos, videos, YouTube videos, music videos, Instagram posts, lyrics. It's kind of bizarre, actually, that when you read it through that indictment.
It is, but at the same time, somebody got to put their foot down and start saying that, hold on. Some of this stuff is just is bogus stuff, and I don't know if they maybe charging some of these dudes so they can tell and get real information. But some of this shit is just bullshit, you know what I mean? Just straight up.
Yeah, and then, that's one of my issues I have with people who do videos of the hood. The goal, of course, is to create a video that's going to get a lot of views so that you can get some good earnings off of the video. But too many people are going too far with the videos and allowing them to show guns, to show weapons, semi-automatic weapons, revolvers, fully automatic weapons. And the content creator does not care, because after that, he goes home, he edits it, he posts it, and he's never going to see you guys again.
No doubt.
But I guarantee you, Tani Willis from
Shit.
the DA's office is downloading it.
Shit. Downloaded it, dissected it, you know what I mean? Know everybody by name, you know what I mean? And you couldn't even if she doesn't get you on that case, you may catch another similar case where you trying to plead that you a good dude, and here come this video, you with a chopper in your hand, even if they didn't charge you. Here go this video to say, no, he's not the church going choir boy that he say he is. This him right here. You know what I mean? So, you know, a lot of that, like you say, the views come with it, but shit, the news come with it too.
Now, a lot of people say, hey, if the dude wants to show a chopper, that's his fault. That's his responsibility. The person behind the camera shouldn't take any blame or be responsible for it. What is your position on some of these content creators that are willing to, because sometimes I think the guy behind the camera is egging the people on to show the guns too. I think it's a balance. I think they're both feeding into each other.
Yeah, when you don't care about who you interviewing, you don't care about the people who you know, having the content with, you know, when you don't care if they do that because you don't care about them. You know, if it's somebody, I guarantee if it's somebody you got love for, one of your nephews pulled up to the interview or the rap video, and he pulled out one, you can be, hey nephew, no, because they can come get you later on, or they might, you know what I mean? You're going to give him all the best advice you can give him.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's why I said go back to, like you say, some of these content creators don't give a damn about the people that they exploiting, because that's basically what you're doing, you know, because you're not giving them the heads up to say, bro, once I post this, it's posted. You know, the DA can download it, you know, snitches can download it, you know what I mean, and everybody can see this.
Yeah, so my whole thing is, I understand that there are people that are going to say, yo, Alex, stop tripping on those content creators. If those dudes want to get in front of the camera, that's on them. That's their fault. If they're doing crime and then they decide to get on a vlog and show a chopper, that's their fault. And I understand that point, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't post a video of, you know, a whole bunch of dudes showing straps. Right. You know, I just don't have, like, my integrity won't allow me to do it. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt. And don't forget, you know, it wasn't that long ago, 8 months ago or something, I was down in Tennessee, and my partner's family pulled up, and the police pulled him over right in front of the house we was at. You know, he had an AR in the car. He had a 9mm in the car, open bottle of Hennessy. You know, put him over right while he was pulling in the driveway. So, they was in his name. They were registered. Only thing they told him, listen, man, if the gun's checked out, man, you at your people's house, we ain't gonna even sweat you about the drink. His gun's checked out. Some of these dudes on here is faking. Some of these dudes really, these choppers in their name, you know what I mean? They can legally carry them, legally have them, you know what I mean? So I don't take every time I see something as they getting exploited. Some of these dudes don't have no felonies, you know, and are gun owners, you know, so take that into consideration too.
Yeah, some people will even say, well, down south, the gun culture is a little bit more eased. It's, you know, it's not as strict. But if you're a felon, it doesn't matter what state or what city you're in. Right. You're going to get violated. You're going to go to jail. So it's just something that I don't rock with that. And some people call me a hater for coming down on other creators that do it. But, you know, and also I don't think it's a long-term strategy, because if you shoot videos in a particular hood and then after a while people do go to jail, you're going to burn the bridge to come back to that hood to do future content, because they were like, oh, no, we ain't messing with you. The homies went to jail. So you can't come here anymore. So it's also maintaining your relationships in these different communities also as a creator.
Right. I totally agree with you.
Now, I'm going to post a picture of this DA because I think she's a cutie. And you give us a thumbs up in the comments on the Streets and Scholars Instagram page if you think she's cute or not. But she is definitely bringing more indictments. She's already done 2 indictments of rappers. Lucci. Lucci's been sitting in jail for, I think, 1.5 years.
Yeah, he's been down for a minute.
And nothing has happened on this case. So that means that, what's his name? Young Thug and Gunna, who got no bail, they're going to be sitting in there for at least 1 year or 2.
They better be prepared for it. You know what I mean? But at the same time, sometimes get you a better deal or get you to the house. So, but what they trying to do is wear him down.
Yeah.
They want to wear him down, Alex, get him to, get so tired that, and even when I went to the state the first time, man, I was so tired of the county jail, man. I'm just like, man, I'm just, whatever, I take it. I'm tired of this motherfucker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You want to get out and get to the yard and live better than this. That county jail treacherous. So that's what they do. They'll sit you in there, man. They'll wear you down, and some people can't hold it, some people can't take it, and they start getting, frustrated.
Yeah, okay. So we'll be on the lookout for what's going on in Atlanta. Apparently in the next 2 months, some indictments coming down.
Real fast. Didn't somebody file for a speedy trial? Was that YNW Melly?
Yeah, he did. That was before they tried to put the death penalty on him.
Okay.
He filed for speedy trial. Then they filed a motion to put the death penalty on him, and that didn't work. So he should be going to trial.
Okay. I know somebody filed. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Basically, he tired. He ready to go.
He's ready.
Yeah, he ready. Let's do this.
Yeah. All right. Another topic here. What do you think about this bishop? Bishop Lemore Whitehead from Brooklyn, New York, got robbed on his live while giving a sermon in his church, and he got robbed for him and his wife. His wife was sitting in the front. He got robbed for $1 million worth of jewelry. He's wearing $1 million worth of jewelry giving a sermon.
Right.
What is that all about?
You know what it's all about. You know what I mean? And I could talk to more shit about it because, a lot of this stuff is propaganda, even in the religious, field too. He's sitting up there. You balling, off the faith of other people, got them paying their tithes, wishing them well, going to the hospital, praying for their speedy recovery. But you over here, man, racking up the bread. Not to mention, if you was making investments, nobody would talk about you. If you was on some apartment buildings, which he may still do, but man, you out here with $1 million worth of jewelry on, driving fancy cars, and
Rolls Royce.
I think it's a slap in the face to the members of the church.
Yeah, man. Let me see. I got a clip here. Dude is a hustler. He's a hustler, no doubt about it. He did some time in prison, so he's not new to the streets. Let me play this clip here. Let's see here. Let me see if this is it right here.
Robbed of more than $1 million in jewelry, and the incident was caught on camera during a live stream.
That's right. Bishop Lemore Whitehead was delivering a sermon yesterday morning when he noticed the gun-wielding intruders. Police say the suspects targeted the bishop and his wife. No one was hurt, thankfully. Lisa Evers is in Canarsie with what the bishop had to say after this horrifying ordeal. Lisa.
Well, Stephen Laurie, this well-known Brooklyn Bishop Lemore Whitehead holds his Sunday services in the space you see right behind me, with some of the faithful coming in person and many more watching his sermons via live stream. But on Sunday, his sermon was interrupted when armed robbers burst in.
Yo, all right.
On Sunday, as Bishop Lemore Whitehead delivered his sermon for his Leaders of Tomorrow ministry, police say 3 masked gunmen stormed in and rushed right for the bishop. They took more than $1 million worth of gold jewelry and gems, including a Rolex watch from the bishop and his wife.
When I see them come into the sanctuary with their guns, I told everybody, get out.
No shots were fired. People here are stunned.
It was just shocking to know that in this neighborhood something like that would happen. And it's thrilling for the people that come to church that day. It's horrible. It's sad to know what's going on in the world right now.
The armed robbers ran out, and then police say jumped into a white Mercedes for their getaway. Bishop Whitehead was in the news last May for attempting to negotiate the surrender of murder suspect Andrew Abdullah, wanted for the Q train shooting that took the life of Daniel Enriquez, who was on his way to Sunday brunch. Whitehead drove his $400,000 Rolls Royce to the 5th Precinct, but the NYPD took Abdullah into custody without his help. Whitehead has had his own contact with the criminal justice system, serving 5 years behind bars for identity theft and grand larceny.
It's my prerogative to purchase what I want to purchase. If I worked hard for it, I can purchase what I want to purchase.
So I guess he's been taking a little bit of heat for being the type of preacher that drives around in $500,000 cars and walking around with $1 million in jewelry.
No doubt, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I still think he hustling, to be honest with you. As far as, I don't think it was $1 million worth of jewelry, but I'm sure the insurance company may give him that $1 million check, you know what I mean? So he's hustling all the way around. And like I said, I think it's a slap in the face to the congregation, to his members and all that, just for you to be flaunting around like that, man. When some of these people, they put their hard-earned money, they pay their tithes, faithfully every week or every month, and some of them don't even have it like that, but because they believe in the faith, they believe in the Lord, they believe in whatever you preaching, they do it, and that's the problem I have with it.
Well, you just said something interesting about the insurance claim, which he's most likely going to do, because there's been some people saying that they believe this robbery was staged, it's fake, and it's done for other purposes, and one would be to cash in on an insurance policy.
No doubt. I mean, you could tell some robbers, yeah, look, man, I got 100 racks for y'all. Come in here. It's going to be easy. Nobody's at church going to have, Auntie Betsy ain't going to have no pistol on her. Come in here, lay it down, take what you're going to take. Because somebody also said in that he said some like lay down before they didn't even ask him to lay down. You know what I mean? He said, okay, I'll let everybody on the ground.
That didn't happen.
Yeah, he didn't ask everybody to lay on the ground, man. You cooperating, helping out with the robbery.
Yeah, I actually picked up on that. I didn't think to say anything. I thought maybe I didn't hear it right.
Right, but I can't accuse him. I'm just saying, But yeah, it's sad to say that you just don't know nowadays, But I'm wondering the hit that his congregation will take as far as, the level of trust that they have in him. But one thing I know about a lot of religious people, they be faithful, man.
They do, because they think that this person is the way to God or Jesus, not realizing that he possibly might be a fraud.
No doubt,
possibly.
And not to mention that you don't need a secondhand party. If you believe to have your relationship with, whatever religion you believe in, you don't need nobody else to corroborate that relationship with you and your religion.
Yeah, man. So there is a possibility this is a publicity stunt, because when you look at the video, there's a guy sitting in a chair behind him that is not even affected by it. He's just chilling, like, all right, hurry up and do this.
He chilling, man. When I say chilling, I damn near thought he was gonna open up a bag of chips, man, and fire up a Newport. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just check it out, And but don't get me wrong, I do know I have seen some people that was robbed, and and they just was calm and cool. Maybe they were robbers, so they didn't, but dude was too cool.
Yeah,
he was over there super cool.
I'm gonna post a clip of this on the Streets and Scholars Instagram page so you guys can check it out, and you let us know, do you think this is a publicity stunt? Is this whole robbery fake? Or did these people really see him as a way to come up and get some money?
Well, you know what? I could believe that people saw him as a come up. If he pushing Rolls Royces, man, and he out here with, big jewelry on, and he's acting like, how society is acting as far as when it comes to, he did time before. So he ain't no stranger to danger. You know what I mean? So I just don't know, Alex. I'm going to see if after an investigation go down, because sometimes these people think they so slick. And when that investigation go down, you'll be surprised on what it actually was.
Well, he did do time for, was it identity theft and fraud or something? Yeah. So this is kind of like right up his alley.
Right up his alley. Yeah. I'm not trying to accuse a guy, but he's looking suspicious right now.
Yeah, but he's got ties into to politics. He's friends with the city of New York City Mayor Eric Adams.
I mean, but if he greasing his palms or putting in donations into that kitty, man, you know how this stuff work.
Yeah. All right, so last thing I want to talk about, man, is a local issue that we had going on here in the city of L.A. at the beautiful Peck Park down in San Pedro, which is the most southern tip of Los Angeles. There was a big, I don't know what you call it, a baseball game, lowriders,
right,
cars, everything, for different hoods to come out on a peace day, though.
No doubt. It was a function that I've been to many of those. I've played in many of those games, whether it was basketball, softball, football. I'm very familiar with them,
And, sometimes even though the plan is for everything to go, peaceful, it wouldn't be unusual if something broke out.
No doubt. You know what I mean? I just hate that. To be honest with you, it's two things that I gotta, don't like about it. For one, I hate that it was blacks. I just really do. I don't want to see nobody getting shot or killed at a park, playing softball. Don't get me wrong. But I hate when it's blacks, and then I hate that it was Compton. You know what I mean? And because the city of Compton, Linwood, Watts, is working so hard, man, to try to, not better no image, but try to save some lives. And what these dudes was doing was playing some games, playing some sports, and whatever happened went wrong, and man, a couple people end up dead.
Yeah, let me play this clip. Let me cue this up. This is Peck Park, Los Angeles.
Deadly mass shooting in a local park.
Wait, did she call it a mass shooting? Let me rewind that back.
We are learning more about yesterday's deadly mass shooting in a local park and how neighbors are fed up with the violence. It happened in Peck Park at Western and Summerland Avenues in San Pedro. 2 people died and 6 others were injured. KCAL9's Lori Perez is live for us in San Pedro with more on the event that was going on when the shootings happened and the concerns in the community. Lori.
Well, Serene, right where we're standing yesterday was a scene of chaos on this basketball court. There was a crowd of anxious and scared people. Over here on the street is where EMTs were triaging victims. And down the road was the main scene of the crime. Throughout this community, neighbors and leaders are reeling after a shooting that, as you said, killed 2 people and left 6 others injured, with the shooter or shooters still on the run. Many are trying to stop more damage.
It seemed like the bullets was getting bigger and bigger, so that made people run faster and faster. So, like I say, it was bad.
Andre Christian was in Peck Park Sunday just before 4 when the shooting started, and part of a crowd of hundreds held in lockdown as an army of first responders descended on reports of multiple victims and possibly multiple suspects. LAPD says of 8 people hit by gunfire, 2 men died at the hospital, 6 others are stable. And as the search for the shooter or shooters continues, Christian and other gang interventionists who joined me on Zoom say they don't know who the suspects are, but they are certain of who they are not.
But they didn't have no connection to the low-riding world or the baseball world at all.
It looks like it happened because of the event and had something to do with the event, but it had nothing to do with either event at that park. And that's what we want to clarify.
They're talking about a lowrider meetup and a softball game that were happening when the shooting started. Both, they say, admittedly involving former gang members, but gang members committed to peace. And while LAPD has said the shooting was gang-related, this group doesn't want the events to take a hit, stifling the very peacekeeping efforts that could prevent other shootings.
Yeah, man, that's basically what you were just talking about, FG. Like, these efforts are supposed to be, peaceful family events, actually.
No doubt. And most of the time they are. A lot of times they are. I mean, I've been to hundreds of them, and they've been peaceful. You know what I mean? You do get some that altercation or a situation to break out, but it's not most of the time that it's about, y'all versus them or, 2 groups against each other. Sometimes it's 2 individuals, and I don't know what happened at this park, but, it definitely went down. And one thing I can say is once the shit get going, it's hard to reel in, and then you got, people stepping in and different people because, say, if you at a park chilling, Alex, you know what I mean? You chilling, you talking over here, just say if you over here talking, you got your lowrider out, you talking to the homies or a young lady, and somebody else get to shooting, and the bullet fly over your way, hit your car that you leaning on, guess what you're going to do? Pull out now you in it. Basically. And this how it escalates. It's not always that, you was even a part of the problem or the plan. It's just sometimes that, like I say, once them bullets get to flying and shit like that, other people get involved.
Man, this article here says that the LAPD said the shooting had nothing to do with the car show and resulted from a dispute between 2 people near the field. Well, it's kind of cool that they're saying it had nothing to do with the car show, because sometimes they like to just smear the whole event.
You know what I did, and I heard the lady on there say that they were trying to keep their peacekeeping efforts alive. I appreciated she said that because she didn't have to, but it's all the same shit,
Yeah, because there's so many cameras everywhere, and this was a city of LA park, and 2 people killed. Actually, it was 9 people shot. 1 person took himself to the hospital on his own. 8 people went to the hospital. Of those 8, 2 died. It was weird that this lady on the news called it a mass shooting. I thought mass shootings had their own specific definition.
No, when you get somebody that's shooting in the crowd, or 2 or 3 or 4 people shooting in the crowd, I mean, you can't put mass on that, It was more than 1 shooter, apparently. The way they're making it seem was more than 1 shooter. And from what I've seen and my intelligence on it, and so when you depend on what your definition of mass is, it was 6, 7 people shot, so you could label that as mass, actually.
Yeah, I guess. I never looked. I thought mass shooting was something else, but I think that the definition is starting to change because they're saying that we've had like 100 and something mass shootings in this country. And I just think that anytime there's more than one victim, they're going to just call it a mass shooting. Yeah, you can
call it a mass, yeah.
To me, a mass shooting was Uvalde, Texas.
No doubt.
Buffalo, New York.
Sandy Hook. Yeah.
But now it's getting defined in a different way, man. But yeah, man, we took a little hit here in the city of LA, man. It was a little disappointing to hear about this because these are events that I like to go to if I have the time to go.
Oh, no doubt, man. Who don't want to see some clean ass low riders play some softball? And like you say, it's always interesting to see. And most of the time, the people that show up for these are mature homies that is about the peace and about to trying to keep shit in order. But sometimes, Alex, you don't know who ran into who. See, the one thing about it, I can't speak down on the situation because you don't know who ran into who. Somebody ran into somebody that did something to their brother, or did something to their sister, or did something to everybody ain't gonna wait till tomorrow. Everybody not finna. Sometime when it's on, somebody could have not seen each other 20 years and finally bumped heads, and it just happened to be here. And unfortunately, this is the hit that, Compton take, LA take, black folks take,
Yeah, I saw a funny clip of the news was interviewing this chick, and she was basically saying, yeah, what happened has happened, but then she banged on the news person.
Hey, she put him on. Hey, she's going viral. Yeah.
She said, all I know is the Santana Block Compton Crib.
Hey, man, the Tanner's going viral right now, man,
Yeah, and everyone knows that this event was majority Santana, but was it all of Compton or... I don't know the specifics.
You know what? I don't either, man. And I don't want to call and get in the crib business and ask a few guys, you know what I mean? But at the same time, because I didn't plan on speaking on it. I didn't have enough intel on it. But like I say, she went viral with that. Yeah. They got so many memes on Instagram and stuff like that. But then when I heard it was a softball game, man, and shit like that, I champion that type of shit. You know what I mean? Because I know the homies do the same thing, the homie Swanee Fly, he really big on putting these games together for the B team, you know what I mean? From Villain, and I commend him on that, because like I say, it builds structures, it builds unity, it builds dudes where when you don't know somebody, you can call, hey man, such and such, hey man, call Swanee or call certain dudes, and they can get in touch with certain dudes and squash everything.
Yeah.
So we need this type of shit, you know what I mean? It's just unfortunately at this time, some shit went wrong,
there's been a couple of softball games over the last 5 years where there's been some drama, and every time I talk to some cats, a lot of them say, I'm staying away from that game because I don't know what's going to happen. Some people already assume, because it's this hood and that hood, even though it's supposed to be positive, I'm going to sit this one out.
No doubt, and that does happen. You know what I mean? Sometimes you be like, you know what, I'm not going to roll to that one because the tension is so high.
Yeah.
And then you might know who involved, who playing, and sometimes, this dude is a straight hothead and this dude don't care about kind of the respect. Some dudes feel like somebody disrespect him over nothing. I've had plenty of conversation with the homies. Man, the homie dude, he didn't disrespect you. He just said what he said and you didn't like what he said. But he didn't disrespect you, so sometimes people need to put their ego aside, and really listen to the facts of what's going on. And sometimes somebody's not disrespecting you. They may just be saying how they feel,
Yeah, man. So I hope the brothers continue the efforts on these softball games. I used to go to quite a few of them before COVID. COVID kind of messed a whole lot of the momentum up. But I'm glad that they're doing it. I hope this doesn't, mess up the future plans of these events. We just got to try better. That's it.
Oh, no doubt. You know what I mean? And because it's some pretty good times and pretty good laughs at some of these events, man. And I know a lot of homies out there low riding. I want to build me another rider, and so definitely, I hope shit get ironed out to where we can get back to the peaceful events.
I know this is highly unlikely, but these type of events, there should be no guns. I know that's unlikely because everybody can go, well, I'm going to leave it in my trunk. Well, I'm going to leave it in my car.
Right.
But if we all agreed no guns, then nobody gets shot. The worst thing is a fight.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I say, back in the day, people would take that fight even if you had the guns. See, that's the difference, Alex, when I was coming up as a youngster. Yeah, they got guns, you know what I mean? But they're still going to run this fade. with that, they're gonna hand their gun off to their homie and say, hold this, I'm gonna run this fade, win, lose, or draw.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna run and grab it. If I lose, I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? That's how it was. So nowadays, like you say, but I really believe is because these youngsters don't have the love for each other, you know, or the love for the next man from the next neighborhood no more. And that's how these situations happen. Everybody is like, fuck everybody. You know what I mean?
How likely is it to do an event like this, but then tell all the organizers and have all the organizers tell all their homies to say, we are not taking any guns. No one's to bring guns. If you bring a gun, you're getting DP. This is going to be a free gun zone. How likely is that to happen?
Slim and none.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we, you know, this is LA, man. You know what I mean? And so at the same time, you've been heated all your life, man. You know, and the motto is, I'd rather get caught with it than without it. You know, it's gonna be a saying forever. You know, and but this on the flip side of that though, Alex. Sometimes you go to an event, you already know that everybody here has a gun. That keeps shit in check too. Dude, you ain't the only one out here with one.
Exactly.
You only got 15, 9, 12 bullets, man. You after that's gone, what you gonna do about the 100 and 200 bullets that these other 10 guys got? And that's the whole thing about it. So you still got to be a hell of a motherfucker to pull your gun out and shoot at an event like this, because this is the shit happen. Dude, 7, 8 people then got shot when you probably was only trying to shoot one dude.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So when you pull that pistol out, everybody got him. You're not finna be the only one shooting, bro.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying, Alex?
Yeah.
So it's almost dumb, like you say, to bring them, because everybody else got them too. You're not the only one out here, dude, finna go back to squabbling it up. Now, maybe it was a situation where it's past squabbles. You know what I mean? It could be somebody in your life, Alex, that if you bumped into today, you know, it's this with this one person is on site. And it could have been that one person that bumped into another person.
Damn. I mean, because that's a possibility almost at any event, though.
No doubt. But once you shoot, you know, once I shoot at Alex and miss and hit the next dude lowrider or shoot the next dude girlfriend, that put a whole new set of people into it. That's why you have these shootings that's escalating like they are.
And, you know, the city of LA is probably not going to allow these events to happen in their parks, because they're going to say, you guys don't know how to at least have a day of no guns. You know, that's why I asked, you know, is it possible? I know it's unlikely, but I don't think that we should give up on that possibility, because hey, if there's no guns, nobody gets shot. As simple as that.
Yeah, no doubt. But, you know, that's just a little far. I believe it's just a little far-fetched, you know, if it was a way that, you know, that's why, you know, it's funny, like when you in jail and you don't have a gun. You see who really tough and who really with the shit. You know, opposed to these dudes nowadays, man, you could be a buster, but you really pop that pistol fast.
Yeah. Well, we're going to wrap it up there, man. Any final thoughts on any of these topics before we wrap up this episode of Streets and Scholars?
No, I'm going to keep my eye open on the Kinley down there and see what's going on with that city manager and those police officers, and see if they come back to the force, see what's going on, because this need to be something that need to be shed some light on. You know, if you gonna quit because a certain person was hired, how loyal are you really to this town or to this police force?
That's
you know, because sometimes we get new employers, people buy out companies all the time, Alex, and we have to, if this is really what we about, we deal with what's going on and we find a way to make it work. We don't just quit and say, okay, we want a new one. It don't work like that.
Well, I believe them racial undertones are at play over there in North Carolina. Hopefully it all works out. Make sure you tap into the Streets and Scholars Instagram page. I'm going to put a picture up of Justine Jones. I'm also going to put a picture up of Tani Willis, the DA from Fulton County. And what you got going on FG Unleashed, man?
You know what, FG Unleashed moving a little slow, Alex, because it's not a gossip site. You know what I mean? I don't sit there and talk about, you know, other people or other things. You know, I try to focus on getting the youth, spitting something in their ear. And it's a slow moving thing just based on, you know, positivity it moves slow. You know,
definitely. I mean, the slow growth is the best growth, man, on this YouTube streets. But make sure you guys tap into FG Unleashed YouTube. He's always putting some hell of a videos up there. That one you did on Tyga and YG, that one really went up, man. That was actually a good one. That was a dope one.
You know what? There was a lot of people that felt that one. You know, so
yeah. So don't forget about my channel, Street TV, on the YouTube platform. I actually just created another channel called Street TV Flicks, where every video is going to be 3 minutes or less. And hit me up at Alex Alonso 101. Send us some questions. If you want us to talk about any questions, any topic, send that into the DM, or you could even send them to FGeneral1. That's FG's Instagram, FGeneral1. And that wraps up another fire episode of Streets and Scholars.